Tier list, tier list, tier list. Today we are doing a tier list for calisthenics skills. Now this is going to be a totally subjective tier list looking at some skills I've picked out. So this differentiates from like push-ups and pull-ups, which are more exercises, and we're looking specifically at gymnastics and calisthenics skills. Now I have cherry-picked 21 skills that I think represent a broad scale, and we're going to be rating them through S, which is the top rank, down to D. I think I'm a bit too used to solo leveling. I was expecting it to go down to E rank, but the tier list I found only goes down to a D. But I don't hate any of these moves, so it's unlikely I need that E rank to be ranking all of these. The way I'm going to judge these skills is 3 criteria. There is epicness, which is basically their spectacle, how impressive they are to behold. Realistic. This is how achievable this is for the average person if they're willing to really put in the time. And functionality. Now I know functional can be a taboo word in the fitness area, but we are looking at functional in a way that defines its ability to transfer the skill to other things. Does it have a high level of transferability across the board? So that is the 3 criteria. You can see I'm looking at this on a scale of 0 to 100, and I'm just going to roughly mark where I would plot their epicness, their realisticness, and their functionality. And then we're going to slot them in S through to D. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's have a look at our first one. Oh, my face feels so dry. D rank skin. All right, we have their back lever first. The back lever is probably a skill most people are going to achieve first. It's one of the entry-level gymnastics strength skills. Epicness for a back lever, I would probably rank a little bit below halfway. Realistic, I think back lever is very realistic for people. And functionality, I feel like the back lever, where it can teach the shoulder position, the core position for multis and planche, so more advanced skills, it gets some points there. But I do look at back lever as a little bit of a dead-end skill in terms of progressing it beyond. You'll probably just switch your training to multis and planche. So I'm going to put its functionality above 50% or above 50. Here. All right, so that is our back lever score, which to me, remember this is all just subjective the way I'm doing this, to me that would slot back lever as, and I'm allowed to move things around, but I'm going to just slot it in a B at the moment. I feel like it might get pushed down to a C, but let's just start with that. Okay, second skill is our backward roll on the rings. Now, epicness of a backward roll, I'm going to put... See, the thing is, I think a backward roll is very impressive, but I don't think it is as much of a spectacle as the people that have achieved it, me, would like to believe, like how the general public views it. So I'm going to put it just above 50%. I think realistically, it's a very difficult skill to do, but I think it's definitely achievable for most people. So I'm going to, with dedicated training, so I'm going to put that around about the 75 to 80. And then functionality, how much does this backward roll transfer? I think it's got quite a decent degree of transferability when we talk about moves like bent arm planches and transitions and sequences on the rings. So I'm going to put that around the 70 as well. I really feel like the epicness should be higher, but I just don't think someone not understanding the skill appreciates it that much. So that's unfortunately where it will lose points. So I'm going to put the backward roll as a B tier move. All right, I figured out how to add an E just in case I remember that I hate a skill, but I don't think I do, but I've just added that anyway. And putting the backward roll in there with the back lever, I'm going to leave it for now, and we're going to move on to the bar muscle up. So the bar muscle up is going to be separate to the ring muscle up. I've included both in this list. Let's have a look at this bar muscle up. So in terms of epicness, I feel like it's the other way around to the backward roll, where normal people are going to look at the muscle up as quite the spectacle, and those that are very conditioned to body weight training are not going to rate it as high. So to me, I'm going to put the muscle up leaning more towards the general public's perception, up this end near like the 75%, which I know, I know. So that's just how it is. Realistic, yes, I think it's quite realistic for people to get. And transferability, I think that it is very transferable, because you're looking at a pull, you're looking at a push, you're looking at, we'll get to this a little bit later with the ring muscle up, the lockout at the top, and the understanding of that transition, also training power in the pull. I'm putting that quite high. So if we go back, we're going to put the bar muscle up as an A tier calisthenics skill. Now, it's basic, yes, but when you look at what I'm ranking this with, epicness, realisticness for people, and its transferability to other skills, the muscle up ranks quite high. We are not ranking skills. We are not ranking skills like a thumb planche or combos, and we're not ranking combos or anything like that either. This is a list of just judging the skills as standalone skills and looking at it a little bit more through the lens of how the average person training this is. We're not looking at the upper echelon. So all the Cali highly skilled snobs, this will not be the list for you. We have our first A tier skill. Moving to the dragon flag. Now the dragon flag, I almost didn't put this on the list because I don't look at it. I look at it more as an accessory. I look at it more as an exercise, as a means to an end for other skills like a front lever. But I do think it's perceived as its own thing enough to put it on the list. So dragon flag, if we think of the epicness of this one, I think the general public think it's quite good. I don't think much of it. I don't have too high of an opinion on this. I'm just going to put it right in the middle here. Kind of balances my perception of it and the public's perception of it. Is it realistic to achieve? Yeah, I think it's quite realistic to achieve, to be honest. Functionality, does it transfer to other things? Yes and no, in terms of you would usually find a dragon flag as an exercise for improving your understanding and your ability to hold front levers, back levers, planches, all of those. But I feel that you could train front lever and just move through different progressions and get stronger and stronger and get a better dragon flag doing that. So because of that, I'm going to put the dragon flag as not very functional in terms of transferring to other skills. I think it's a good way to improve your proprioception of core position for something like a front lever. But I also think that just training front lever is going to give you a dragon flag. And it doesn't go the other way around. So saying that, we're going to put dragon flag as a D. I think that it's almost like, because I don't hate it, it's not going as an E. It is the most recent exercise to have injured me, so I should put it in E, but I'm just going to put it in a D for now. But it's also not a skill, so E. I'm just going to leave it in D. Leaving it in a D. Okay, next one is the elevator, or Pelican Stage 3, or reverse bodyweight muscle up. Got a lot of names. This reverse muscle up is really epic. It tips the scales in how epic it is. Is it realistic for someone that's hardworking, consistent, does all the right things to achieve? I actually think it is quite realistic. But It's realistic for, I think people still have to tick a lot of the boxes. Like if I look at the average person that is into calisthenics and like, oh yeah, I'm like keen to get the reverse muscle up, the immediate thought in my head, yes, you can, with dedicated long-term training. And not a lot of people will do that. So it kind of like weighs up what definition of realistic are we talking about. So I'm just going to put it smack bang in the middle here, because I think with dedicated training, it's achievable for a lot of people, but I think that dedicated training would be the deal breaker for a lot of people because it needs a lot of work. And functionality, transferability, I actually rate it quite high in terms of functionality, but you don't need to train for it to get the same what the benefits that it gives that transfer. You definitely could achieve them by training other skills as well. So it's not like it's uniquely transferable. So I'm just going to put that around a 60 here. So high epicness, 50-50 in terms of the realism. It is achievable, but the training is very dedicated, so it kind of balances it to 50. And functionality, yes, I think you do get a lot of gains from training towards the elevator, but I might be a little bit too wrapped up in thinking of the prerequisites that build up to it is where the gains happen. The actual move of the elevator, it will transfer, but you likely gained all those abilities in the build up to learning that skill. So we're going to put the elevator as a C. Remember, I think the move is extremely epic, but it loses points for the other ones. Okay, the forward roll, which the picture looks the same as the backward roll. The forward roll again it's not that epic. I think if you do it nice and slow, people can appreciate what you're doing. They think it looks cool and aesthetic to move slowly around the rings, but I still don't think they grasp like what they're actually seeing in terms of the skill that it takes to be able to do that. Realistic, yes. I think the forward roll is, let's say like 90, 80 to 90. I think it's quite realistic. Essentially, if you can do a muscle up, you can do a forward roll. And I think anyone can train to the muscle up with some dedicated training. So I think it's very highly realistic. Functional, the ring roll is transferable skill-wise because of how it teaches you how to keep your center of mass close to the rings, teaches you how to distribute your weight as a transfer towards understanding backward roll. And some of the other like unpackings of elevator prerequisites. But if you can muscle up, you can do the forward roll. It's just kind of like understanding that weight distribution. So I don't think being able to do the forward roll in and of itself is very transferable because it needs the strength of the muscle up. So I would rate the muscle up as being highly transferable or highly functional. And the things that you learn set you up for the backward roll. So it's almost like those points I would give to the backward roll, not the forward roll. So I'm going to say it's like not that functional. I'm going to put it down here. It's more a demonstration of what you can already do. So the forward roll, what did I rank? Okay. I'm going to put the forward roll as a C rank, same as the elevator. But it is an essential stepping stone towards the backward roll and the elevator. You would want to be able to do that forward roll, but just as a standalone skill, it's a C. Handstand push up. Epicness. I think handstand push up is quite epic. I am aware that just a flat ground handstand push up is cool, but it's not like it doesn't take that much skill to do if you can balance a handstand and you just have basic strength, but also what it can transfer to in terms of the deep handstand push-ups. They can be very epic. And I also think from general public, like people seeing a handstand push-up, a lot of people are impressed with it. So epicness, we're going to push up near the top. Realistic for people to achieve. Again, I think it takes dedicated training. I don't think it takes anywhere near as much dedicated training as the elevator would, but it does take two roads in terms of building strength and building your balance for handstand. depending on who you are, determines how long that takes. But I think if you just expect a reasonable amount of time with a reasonable degree of commitment, it is very realistic for people to achieve. So it is going quite high as well. And then transferability. So I think the handstand push-up, or your road to learning handstand push-up, it teaches you handstand, it develops pushing strength, and I think those two are quite important aspects of your bodyweight training journey, pushing and handstand balancing. I think a lot of the Cali athletes actually gloss over the handstand and don't look at it as very important. And I think a lot of hand balancers don't put enough effort into the strength. So the handstand push-up raises everybody up. It makes everyone better as a well-rounded calisthenics or bodyweight training athlete. So I think it's quite transferable to other skills as well. All right, maybe not that high, let's put it here. So you can see they're quite high rankings for handstand push-up, which has me put handstand push-up as, I'm just gonna put it as an S tier bodyweight training skill at the moment because of everything I just said. All right, front lever. I think most people are impressed with front lever. I think that I think it fits perfectly here. I think keeping it at, it's not the most amazing thing you've ever seen, but it is very cool to see someone completely outright. I think that I can appreciate that it's not the peak of bodyweight training. There's a lot more to improve on if you can hold a full front lever. But I do think it's quite impressive for someone to achieve. It certainly deserves credit and acknowledgement for anyone that can front lever as an adult, normal size adult person. So we're going to put it around about the 65 to 75 in terms of epicness. Realistic, I want to say that it's quite realistic, but part of me wonders if I've met people that just do not have the proportions or muscle insertions for the front lever. I theorize it just takes more strength if you feel like you should be able to do it, but you can't. And it also probably takes just refining your technique. But realistic, I'm probably going to put it around about here, just because I'm imagining running into some people that cannot. And we're talking about a full front lever as well. Yeah, sometimes people are just way too bottom heavy for this to be achievable, or way too tall. But just because you're tall doesn't mean you can't front lever either. You've got Tom Merrick, Daniel Vadnal. They're both over this. Well, I think Daniel's 6 foot, and Tom's over 6 foot, and they've held front lever. Lachlan as well. Lachlan held front lever. So these are all guys that are over 6 foot or over, and they could hold front lever. So functionality. Oh my God. Functional. I don't look at front lever as that functional. If someone just wanted to improve pulling strength, I would just recommend they get better at their pull-ups and their weighted pull-ups. And they might even find that they can front lever after they've done enough pulling. So even though I know for most people front lever would need to be actively worked towards, there are certain people you'll find that if you invest a lot of time into, say, bouldering or weighted pull-ups, the front lever might be a free gain. So we're not going to rank the front lever as high in terms of its transferability. And that would leave the front lever as I feel like it's a little bit unfair. I feel like I want to put front lever as a C, but I definitely don't think back lever should be a B above front lever. Epicness, realistic. Yeah. I think I might have to move the back lever down. It's just because back lever relates to planche and multis, whereas front lever doesn't. Front lever can only relate to Victorian. And Victorian, well, you're going to see where the fuck Victorian lands. That's controversial. I'm going to leave back lever as a B. Okay, human flag. Human flag. Epicness, I'm going to put it around... I don't think it's very good. I'm just going to put it here. If I see someone flag, I'm quite nonchalant about it, you know? I think it was a free game for me, the flag. It's something I never trained towards, so I don't have that much respect for it in terms of like, this is an epic skill, but I know it's like very impressive for general public. So let's just put it bang in the middle in terms of epicness, my opinion and what I think general public think of it. How realistic is it to be able to achieve the flag? Well, I'm just going to put it around here. I think achieving the human flag is probably realistic for most people, and I'm just allowing for some possible genetic disadvantages that might have some people. It's just really difficult to do. But I think for most people, if you build general strength in bodyweight training, in general bodyweight skills, you will probably find the flag just happens for you if you get strong enough. So that also means in terms of functionality, I'm putting the flag like down here. I don't think it's very transferable to other things. I think it's just a free gain from strength you've already got. And if you started your bodyweight training journey and trained towards your flag, I don't think it would transfer to very much. So it wouldn't serve you very, very well. It might be a dead-end skill. So with that, human flag I would put as a D skill. Iron cross. Okay, well, if we look at iron cross, we're going to say it is very epic. I think everyone appreciates how epic the iron cross is. How realistic it is for people, I don't think it's very realistic. The reason why I'm not putting it like right at 0, if we're talking about general public, I mean, there's definitely people that would be able to achieve it with just beast genetics, and everything would be in their favor. But I'm also allowing for, maybe move it, I'm going to go a little bit further up just because, listen to me, this is what I'm allowing for, is there are strong guys that can do it on short rings. So, and I mean, just in general, doing it on shorter rings is achievable. And even though someone like Juji Mufu, who has done an iron cross in the past and he counts it, I definitely don't count his. But if we take some steps back, there are guys that are muscular and strong, like Juji is, and have a better understanding and awareness of technique and utilize the shorter rings. Or they might just be like smaller guys that good body weight to strength ratio, and you utilize the short rings that would be able to do it. And even though I'm going to see a cross like that and pay respect to the technical side of it, if it's on short rings, I am just innately deducting points because of my bias towards gymnastics, which is being able to do it on the 3 meter long rings. Anyway, if you saw a strong guy do an iron cross with good technique on short rings, I think it's fair to still pay it for the general public, so I'm putting it up a little bit in terms of realism there. Functionality, the iron cross, I think it is like quite dedicated training. I think like it has transfers to straight arm strength. It has some transfers to, you know, chest, shoulders, but I think you can achieve those things not doing the cross as well. It's not like you need to do the cross and get like these amazing benefits. I think, yeah. So functionality and realism are lower. Obviously, it's a very epic skill, but I think putting those things together, the iron cross is a C. Almost, it borders on a D. It's like here. It fits halfway between, but because it's so epic, we'll make it a C skill. Okay, the LSIT. So the LSIT is, you could do the LSIT on rings or on P-bars, like in this picture, or on the floor. That's how we're ranking it. If we look at the LSIT, it is, I mean, what's funny is I think it's actually quite a searchable skill. It's something that people will watch a tutorial on how to do it and actively want to achieve it. Whether or not they think it's epic or not is the reason I'm unsure, but I think for me and probably most of you watching, it's not epic. So we're putting it down here. It's not an epic skill. Is it realistic for people to achieve? I've actually heard of people that are quite strong or have a good base in fitness that still struggle with LSIT. I mean, I want to put it here. I want to say, like, yes, the LSIT is realistic for everyone. And I'm very tempted to put it like right up to the 100, but just because of some of the stories that I've heard, I'm going to put it a little bit lower down. And then functionality, does it transfer to other things? Not really. Like, there's a support hold coming up on the rings, and you could start at an LSIT on P-bars and think that it will transfer to help with rings, but not quite, especially with the ring turnout. So I don't even think it transfers to that much. And much like the human flag, I think it would just kind of be, I think if you got strong in general bodyweight strength training, the LSIT would just be there for you unless you had very weak hip flexors or very tight hamstrings, which is also something you can overcome. So I don't think it's very functional either. These, and I kind of want to put, oh no, that's not true. I'm going to put the L as a D, but I'm tempted to put it like halfway between D and E. I always want to put it as an E, because it's kind of like, can you not just do an LSIT? Can you not just get strong and have an LSIT appear? But I don't want to act like I'm hating on the LSIT. Like, just because I am athletically gifted and I've always trained, it's not fair for me to be like, oh, the LSIT, fuck the LSIT. I've always been able to LSIT. It's a legit achievement for a lot of people, and I don't want to take away from that. So I'm going to put it on the D instead of the E from that perspective. All right, the multis. The multis was this is where I'm just saying like athletically gifted, and then no, you're fucking not for multis, mate. The multis is very, very epic. So epic, I'm going to make it take over the 100. Super epic. Is it realistic for people? Fuck no. It goes right down the other end. Functional. I think the multis would develop like some pretty good pushing strength, but the juice is not worth the squeeze in terms of those benefits. I think the main benefit you would get from a multis is ungodly biceps. You just get amazing, amazing biceps, which I think is enough to put it at like 25 to 30. So saying those things, I think different to the Iron Cross, which is very epic, the multis is like so epic. Annoyingly, me saying that, I feel like the general public would find the Iron Cross more impressive just because they don't know what they're seeing. But anyway, we're going to put the multis at 100 pretty much, but the realism at like a 0. So that kind of balances that out, doesn't it? And then the functionality is on the poorer side of scoring. So I think the multis would have to go as possibly a D. Now that seems so insulting to the multis because I put it as 100 of epicness, and now it's sitting alongside an LSIT, a flag, and a dragon flag, which is so disrespectful. But I think that is its rightful place in terms of a standalone skill for people to look at whether it's worth pursuing or not. Okay, this next one is the mana. So again, it's probably one that you haven't heard of very much or seen. Maybe this is the first time you're seeing it. It should just be called the Marilyn Manson. And it is very epic. But again, I just wonder how well people can appreciate how difficult that is to do. I think in terms of epicness, I think is very epic, but also think it's not everyone's cup of tea to understand that skill. So I'm going to put it around about the 75 to 80. Realistic, I think is like very unrealistic for people to be able to do that because it's a huge combination of things in terms of your compression ability, your mobility, and your strength. And I think it also has some genetic requirements to be able to do it, like very specific body type in terms of height, weight, and everything in between. So I don't think it's very realistic. Functional, I think it's, I mean, in terms of the strength you get through like pushing and through your triceps, in terms of the compression and the mobility for your shoulders, I think it's actually quite a functional move to train towards. So I'm going to give it a score around about the 60 in terms of functionality. But it really does just lose points because it's so unrealistic for people to train. Like, you would look at the mana as the end goal of an LSIT, pretty much. You're just taking everything an LSIT is and timesing it by 10 in terms of difficulty. So it's almost like for different reasons, the mana is going to be a D rank skill. The one-arm chin-up. The one-arm chin-up is pretty epic. I think most people would agree with that. The one-arm chin-up is a very epic skill to behold. I have become a little bit, how would I say, conditioned to seeing it. So I see it nowadays and I'm not, you know, it's like, oh yeah, another person doing a one-arm chin-up. So I'm going to put it around about the 75 just because I've become quite, what's the word? Oh, just realized I didn't lint roll my black shirt. I'm covered in Piccolo's hair. Dog's gonna get a beating now. What are we talking about? One arm chin up. Okay, the epicness of it, yes. So I think it's epic, but I think you can get conditioned to seeing it, which shouldn't really take away from the skill, but just that's where my head's at. Is it realistic? I think it is quite realistic for people as long as they keep their body weight under control. You know, like a fat person is not going to be able to do a one-arm chin-up because there's just so much riding on their elbow, staying injury-free. And I think even for very lean people training towards this, it's just the one-arm chin-up is the golfer's elbow's mum. You know, like it will cause that injury pretty much unless you have some kind of plan and patience in place that is just next level wise. I think you're looking at some tendonitis knocking on the door here. But I also don't want to sound too like pessimistic about training it because I do think it's quite realistic. So I'm just going to put it here. In terms of functional, I don't find it to be that functional because I think all the gains you get from pull-ups and weighted pull-ups, I don't think there's anything there from a one-arm chin-up that the weighted pull-up won't give. If I had to say something, it's the ability to depress or control your scap on a single arm. You can notice like quite a significant difference between doing one arm and two arm pulling movements, but it doesn't mean it's transferable. It makes you better at one arm scap pulls, but the only time you do a one arm scap pull is in the one arm chin up or one arm pull up. So it's like in its own little area. So yeah, transferability, functionality of a one arm chin up is not that high, I don't think. So I'm going to put it down here. Oh, that took some points off, didn't it? So one arm chin up. I think we're going to put, drum roll. I think we're going to put it as a C just because its ability to be achieved next to like the mana and multis, it's definitely more realistic and it's epic. So it makes it way more appealing. And then its transferability, you know, you could do like a lot of weighted pull-ups and just every now and then train your one-arm chin-up, and that could help keep the tendonitis at bay. So yeah, it does have some reasons for being C over those D rank skills. Okay, one-arm handstand. I've included the one-arm handstand, but I've not included the handstand. I don't know if that's a mistake on my part or not. Is it? Should I include handstand? I should include handstand. All right, I've added handstand. That seemed a little bit unfair. So handstand ranking is coming up. One-arm handstand, though. We're going to go to that. So a one-arm handstand, I think, is quite an epic skill, but I also think that people in the bodyweight strength training realm really do appreciate it, but would not rate it as high as things like iron cross and multis. So I'm going to put the one-arm handstand lower down, more towards like a 70. Realistic, I don't think it's very, this is a weird one. I think it's, what was the other one that it was like this? I can't remember, but I think it's realistic if anyone puts the time and effort in, but I think the amount of time and effort this skill needs is massive. Oh, I think it was the elevator. The amount of time needed for this skill is massive. So it's not like a physical demand in terms of what makes it unrealistic. It's the time investment. Can I speak? It's the time investment that makes this unachievable, or very likely to be unachievable. So I'm going to put it not 0, but I'm going to put it quite low down there. And then functionality, transferability. I don't think it transfers. I mean, does a one-arm handstand make you better at a two-arm handstand? There's probably more qualified people that could answer that, but to me, I think that it's the other way around. Like a two-arm handstand can help. Like you need a very, very, very solid two-arm handstand to begin working on your one-arm handstand. But I think the one-arm handstand is its own beast and doesn't necessarily transfer into having a better two-arm handstand. So I'm going to say its transferability is quite low as well. That means one-arm handstand. Let me look at these grades again. It's not doing that great. D or an E. See, this is where I was like, I didn't think I needed the E rank because I don't hate any of these skills. But I think that is appropriate. I think a one-arm handstand along with mana and multis is quite appropriate. Multis, just like the pure strength and conditioning of the biceps, the mana, the combination of all those demands, and that's like very, very specific to a particular body type and time intensive. And then the one-arm handstand is just so time intensive. That makes sense. D rank for the one-arm handstand. All right, the planche. Almost said full planche. I mean, technically, yes, we're looking at full planche. Let's grade it based on that. All right, how biased am I? Full planche is like the most epic thing. I think a multis, in my opinion, a multis is more difficult to do, but I think more people appreciate a planche over a multis, actually. Planche possibly appreciated on the same scale as the iron cross. I just think the iron cross is so symbolic. So yeah, full planche I'm just going to put as full epicness. A lot of bias in that, but also not. I think the general public really do see the full planche as a very epic skill. Is it realistic? Well, if you're asking me, I really don't think so. I do think just from the amount of time I've spent on the full planche, I think that it highlights that it is very user specific. So I really do think it's very low down the list. I mean, let's just say I put in, which this is what I'm aiming for, I put in all my effort to achieve a full planche and I get it at the end of the year. Am I gonna bump that realisticness up? Yeah, maybe I would bump it up a little bit, but currently with how I'm feeling, I think it's not realistic for people to get a full planche. This little gap here represents hope. And then functionality. I don't think it's that functional either. I think planche is actually like a very specific type of training. And even though, I mean, if we're talking, okay, how is it functional? How would it transfer? It transfers by way of general pushing strength. But again, I think a handstand push-up develops general pushing strength as well as other things. So there's better things out there to improve that pushing strength. In terms of realistic, low. In terms of functionality, I think it's also quite low. I think it's a bit higher than maybe some of the others along the way. So I'm going to put it at like a 30, 25 to 30, because I do think there's, I mean, whenever I've been put up against other people in terms of pushing strength, whether it's like demonstrations or giving things a go, my pushing strength does reign supreme. And fuck, that's not meant to sound arrogant. This is just, I'm trying to like big up the planche. I'm not trying to big up myself. I train planche heaps, so this can only be the result of all that planche training. So I think there is some functionality there, but again, I don't think it's like if you train, you have to train the planche to get all these benefits. There's other ways you could get very similar benefits. All right, my favorite skill ever. Where am I going to rank the planche? I think I'm going to put it at a C. Why the fuck is the back lever still higher? This isn't right, guys. I'm going to put the back lever as a C because of everything I said, but I would be tempted to put it as a B because I'm being biased as fuck. And also, if we step down and we think straddle planche, then it starts to become more realistic for people. But I'm actually just going to hold true and leave it as a C, the full planche. Okay, the ring muscle up. So if we look at the bar muscle up again, I said, let's go back. I think it is somewhat epic. It goes more that way, obviously, because of what the general public think. Like, working at the gym I work at, where more the general public, there's still, most of them there, pretty much all of them there, have a baseline of fitness. So they're not like out of shape gen pop when I say that, but most of them want the muscle up. The muscle up is the thing they think is awesome and epic to get. So it has to get points for that. Obviously, for someone like myself, who was always physically active, I could muscle up pretty much day one. It was just some working out of the technique, but I could get above the rings with strength from the beginning. So obviously, 15, 16 years later, I'm going to have the epicness of a ring muscle up much lower down on the list. But I just don't think for what I'm going to give its total score as, I think that it's worthy to put it low down because of that. I feel like the general public's opinion of this has a little bit more merit. But still, we're looking at like, maybe I should be a little bit more harsh. We're looking at like 55 to 60 in terms of epicness. Realistic, it's like 100, and functional, I think it's like 100 as well. Maybe 90s, we'll say, just because nothing in the world is perfect. And it's realistic just because I think anyone can develop a high pull, and I think anyone with time can develop the understanding of the technique. And I think that, what was the other thing? I don't know, I forget, but I think it's like very realistic. I think I was just going to compare it to like the time invested into the elevator or the one-arm handstand. It like, there's barely any time involved in this. Yes, there's time, but when you compare it to those kinds of skills, there's barely any time at all to be able to achieve this awesome skill. And then functionality, hey, how can this not be highly functional? How can this not be a highly transferable skill? You're talking about your ability to pull. You're talking about learning false grip. You're talking about the understanding of the transition, the constant downward pressure of pulling to pushing, which transfers into forward rolls and backward rolls. There's some other ring skills that transfers to as well. You're talking about someone's ability to get above the rings or stay below. It gives them the access to that freedom on the apparatus. We're talking about the pushing strength of the dip. And if we're talking about the ring muscle up completed, we need to acknowledge the support position at the top. I just went to demo it. I have no room. The support hold's coming up as one of the skills I'm going to assess, but you need that to be able to complete your muscle up. So there's just so many things this is ticking off that skill transfer wise, the ring muscle up, very high. To me, I think the ring muscle up should go as an S tier skill. As again, the standalone skill, should be a highly sought after one to achieve. Just ticks so many boxes. Okay, skin the cat. The skin the cat is, I mean, I feel like the name is not great. Should go pretty low on the list for its name. It's not epic at all. I think it is pretty cool skill though to do, but I don't know if epic is the right way to describe it. So I'm going to put that more down here. It's probably a great one as someone's introduction to straight arm strength. I think I'm just going to jump to functionality and say Skin the Cat should be almost a 100 in terms of functionality, because you're learning straight arm strength through the front lever or the front portion, and then the back lever or the back portion of the move, and they're different things. So whether you pronate or supinate, the back lever straight arm is like biceps tendon and just general protraction of the shoulder, depression of the shoulder the whole way through. The front lever portion is more your lat strength, your ability to pull through the lats and not resort to using your biceps. Then there is I know this is like a non-thing for a lot of you likely watching, but it's being inverted on the rings matters. This is also something you can train as a tuck and progress by extending. So you're specifically talking about improving your lever strength, going from tuck to advanced tuck to one leg or straddle for front lever and back lever. Oh, I've lost my head. There's so many things. We're talking, if we do the pike variation, we can also be training or demonstrating our ability to compress, and that can inspire us to train towards improving our pike for a better Skin the Cat. And then you're looking at that bottom position on the back part, the German hang, helping to open up the shoulders, and that can also lead to learning how to inlocate and dislocate with the shoulders. So to me, it has to pretty much be a 100 in terms of functionality. I actually want to take over the 100. Very, very functional is Skin the Cat. Realistic, it's also quite realistic to achieve. So I would put it like up here, which means it's, a very good skill. I actually wasn't expecting Skin the Cat to perform that well. I'm looking at this epicness meter now. I feel like the epicness should maybe go down a little bit more, but I think people are happy to achieve it. We're going to put Skin the Cat as an A tier skill. That is unexpected. The disrespect that I'm giving to these skills that I've loved, or still, I love them my whole life, like heaps. Shut the fuck up. Okay, this next one, I don't think it will be as unheard of as the Mana, but I think it might be unheard of to a lot of you. The Stalder Press. So the Stalder Press is quite an epic skill to do if you understand what's required to begin the move. The first 30% of the move is very difficult for an adult to learn how to do. I think that you can clearly see there's strength involved, and there's compression, and there's balance. So I think that it is quite epic in that sense. I'm going to put it around about the 75%. I think that the Stalder Press is realistic to achieve, and I think it serves as a great skill, because the way I was kind of shitting on planche in terms of how unrealistic it is, it might make some people think, well, why would I want to invest my time in training planche when you're saying it's very unachievable to do? But I still want to train that straight arm strength. I still want to train pushing strength. Enter the Stalder Press. The Stalder Press ticks that box of pushing strength, straight arm strength, very planche-like. Getting a Stalder Press, you would likely be able to have a tuck planche or advanced tuck planche as a free gain. It just takes time. So in this sense, it doesn't take so much time like a one-arm handstand, like the elevator, to see a glimmer of hope. It's actually something that has a lot of valuable and rewarding stepping stones along the way, to the point where even though it takes a lot of time to achieve, I don't think that it's unrealistic or unsatisfying amount of time. I think there's just so many things to tick off along the way that it still deserves to be put high up as realistic. Yes, time intensive, but very enjoyable programming. So enjoyable in quotes, but yeah, I just think it will hold your interest a lot more. You won't realize it takes a lot of time because of all the stepping stones. Anyway, and functional, I think it's very functional. I think the pushing strength, compression ability, the flexibility / mobility, and the handstand balancing make it a very, very functional skill. And that is why Stalder Press is going to be our third S tier skill. Were you expecting that? The Victorian is so epic. It's like Maltese. It is ridiculous. The thing is, I don't know if I should move it a little bit further down because I don't think the general public realize how difficult the Victorian is over the Maltese. I'm not saying the Maltese is easy. The Maltese is really hard, and then the Victorian's even harder. So how does that make you feel? When you look at gymnasts performing it on rings, it's not even performed well. There's still like clear deductions that would need to be made, which just shows how difficult it is. There is something to say about, and maybe Nate can comment if he's watching this in the comments as a judge, is the Victorian is not really worth training and doing well in terms of how gymnastics rings competitions are scored. It kind of encourages you not to do that. It more encourages a common theme for everyone, which is why routines end up looking pretty similar. Even though they're all epic, you've got to admit there's not a lot of variety in rings routines, and it's the scoring system which kind of encourages that. So we might be having true, really well performed Victorians stolen from us due to the scoring system, but we can only look at what we've got. There are very good Victorians performed in calisthenics and street workout, but we're still talking shorter rings and we're talking bars. Now that shouldn't take away from the achievement, but I think there just is a slight underappreciation for how difficult the Victorian is, which takes like 5 points off. I still think everyone can see it's super epic. Realistic, it's a big fat 0. It's very unrealistic for people to achieve. And functionality, I'm going to give it like 10 points for its functionality, just because training towards that might also transfer over to your front lever. But actually, I'll just give it a 5 for that. It's a very, should I go 0? Maybe a 2. It's the thing that makes Victorian very cool is that so much of gymnastics rings training is that actually the opposite of Victorian. It's your planche, your back lever, your Maltese. It's your ring turnout support. Everything is front facing. There's very rarely anything that's backwards except for a front lever. And front lever is such an easy skill. I think it is scored as an A on the code of points. I could be wrong, but it's a very easy skill. So it's kind of like easy and then ridiculously hard. So it kind of goes front lever easy, Victorian ridiculously hard, and then the reverse planche is just, we don't even talk about it because it's just, we don't even, yeah. There's like some Cali freaks that can do it, but not on the rings, which is what I'm talking about. And yeah, they're like one in a billion, you know what I mean? So very unfunctional. That means the Victorian becomes our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th D rank skill. Could even be an E, but I still program for it. At our gym, for Gen Pop, I still program Victorian things because I think there's still value in that to balance out a rings program. And it's not like they're doing Victorian, where on the rings in support leaning backwards, or where between the boxes in a very tucked position, or even the feet are still supported. But after programs that involve Victorian, everyone's triceps are absolutely smashed. And it's like, you have to accept there's some value in extrapolating those Victorian principles into our program if that's the response, and we never get that response when it's purely the basic ring skills that we do. So there is some value in Victorian, D rank. Okay, 2 more to go. Ring support hold. So you might be thinking, isn't that just like push up? Isn't that just like pull up? No. I might do another video on this, but I think straight arm position on rings is a skill. I have seen enough people to have learned that it needs to be trained to be able to do it. I don't think I've met anyone that has not trained on rings that can come in and keep the elbows locked straight on the rings. They can't do it. So that inherently shows that it's a learned skill to lock the arms straight. Is it epic? God, no. it is a 0. No, we should put it up a tiny bit. I think people find it somewhat impressive. At least it almost go up to a 10 if they watch me do it, then they do it and they can't, then I do it again. They're like, oh, wow. Why does it sound like I'm bigging myself up here? I'm not. I'm talking about, yeah, they then understand how difficult it is. So let's put it around about a 5. Is it realistic? Yeah, I think most people will be able to do it. There are some people like off the bat that are fit but maybe hyperextend their elbows or have elbow problems, or they are overweight. It might not be appropriate for them to do that until they either hypermobile, they build way more strength in their biceps and triceps, or if they're overweight, they lose weight so that it's safe on the joint. But I think for the most part, it's like very realistic. And then, is it functional? Not really. We'll put it like just behind the F in functional, because I think that you need to be able to do it for many ring sequences and initiation of ring skills. But once you can do it, it's kind of just like, yes, I can do support, and you don't feel like it continues to add on to all your abilities. It just kind of becomes, it's there that you can do it. So kind of very low on epicness, pretty low on functionality. Realistic, yeah, it's very realistic. So I think we'll put that support position, something you should train. Due to its necessity, we're going to make it a C skill. All right, last one. Handstands. Almost didn't make the list for some reason. I don't know why I didn't put it on there when I had one arm. Epic, just say 50% because it's impressive, but I think the world knows people can handstand. Is it realistic? Yeah, I'd say 100%. Is it functional? It does transfer to things like one-arm handstand and handstand push-up, so I think it does get points for its functionality. Those points will put at like a 65, roughly, and I think that puts your handstand as a B. So, looking at the list, again, I didn't put any in E because I don't want to like I don't hate any movement. If I was going to put something in E, I'd probably move the dragon flag and the human flag there, but well, maybe not even the human flag, maybe the dragon flag, and it's purely because I think it almost shouldn't be on this list. It's more an accessory than it is a skill. I just think because people see it and react to it in a way, it was in Rocky, it just has this perception that it's a thing, and it is a thing, but it's more an exercise than it is like a skill. Okay, and it injured me, so maybe we'll leave it in E purely because of that. Looking at D tier, we have the human flag, the LSIT. I think the human flag is in there just because I so strongly believe it's a free gain from building strength in other more important movements. The LSIT is there because I think it is likely a free gain as well, but I appreciate that for beginners in this kind of training, and this is one of your introductions to fitness, it does, and you have tight hamstrings, it does take a certain amount of effort to achieve. And then we have movements like Maltese, Mana, one-arm handstand, and Victorian that are in no way similar to the flag and LSIT, but they are lower on the list due to how unrealistic they are for you to train. There's many more movements, much more worth your time from a general standpoint than these hyper difficult skills. When we look at C, most of these are acceptable to have within your training program or to have as goals, but with the caveat that if you feel like you're spending too much time training towards them and you want to train something else, there should be no guilt in not having these within your program. We're talking about the elevator, the iron cross, the one-arm chin-up, the full planche. Those skills can all be trained. Sorry, those skills do not have to be trained to have a well-rounded bodyweight strength training program, but they are very epic and they can make for fun within your training program. Within that C tier still, the forward ring roll and the front lever, I think both are necessary to train. Even to the point where I kind of want to move like front lever and forward ring roll to the B tier, just because it's almost the forward roll should almost be like a necessity from the muscle up. Just show you can do it. Show you can improve your toolkit just that little bit more. And then with the front lever, I think it's just a straight arm pulling skill. And the reverse to that is the straight arm pushing skill of planche. But I think front lever is much more realistic for people. So it kind of gets the edge. So we will bump that up into the B tier. And then the support hold. The support hold, just because it's a C, doesn't mean that you shouldn't train for it. It's just not very epic. But it's a skill that you certainly should tick off within your journey. Looking in the B tier, this back lever has been bugging me the whole time because I called it a dead-end skill, but it is somewhat worthy to learn the activations for planche in an easier position, and it gives a huge win for people to be able to get that back lever. It was the first skill I got, and it definitely started a snowball of momentum with skills to tick off and to achieve, and just general, I felt good with my training and keen and hungry for more. The back lever does that, so I'm going to leave it there as a B. The backward roll is one that I think it's quite important. I will back that for that backward roll. I don't think you don't have to go down that route of rings complexity, even though I have a YouTube channel that I'm really going to encourage you to do that and would imagine you guys would want to, but you don't necessarily have to do that backward roll despite it being that good. Handstand, I think, is necessity. I think that the fact that Cali athletes can't do it is like shameful because I don't think it takes that much time to just get a basic understanding of how to handstand. And when you see some of these ridiculously good Cali athletes do handstand push-ups where they can't balance at the top, or they're in just supremely closed shoulder position because they lack the mobility, I think that just highlights a flaw in their general well-roundedness. Even like a specialist, I think, should still be able to hold handstand. So it's high up on the list for that reason. The A, so it's more like the ones in A are they're just missing something that S tier has. So with the bar muscle up, I just think there's a bit more complexity and gain with the ring muscle up, because the bar muscle up, that dip portion or the pushing portion, is almost like a non-thought. The bar muscle up is so much more about a high pull and your timing of the swing than it is about the dip, but the ring muscle up does have a big factor on the dip because of just the lack of stability on the rings, but also what the muscle up on the rings transfers to: forward roll, backward roll, elevator. And then skin the cat, it should be S tier. It's just very difficult to find a way to progress that. Yes, 360 pulls all the way around, but I feel like when it becomes that, we're talking more about a front lever and a back lever than we are about a skin the cat. So you could have an argument of, yeah, you progress it to around the world. So it's not only hyper functional, but you can also make it very difficult, put it in S tier. And I understand that argument, but I also don't. It goes back down because I look at that more as building front lever strength and building back lever strength. And now we have our S tier, the handstand push up, the ring muscle up, and the Stalder Press. All three of these are skills that encapsulate multiple training attributes, whether it is balance, mobility, strength, flexibility, mobility. Did I already say that? They just tick so many boxes. It's hard to get bored with movements like that in your training program. It gives you a lot to work on and a lot to improve on. Let me know if you agreed with this list. That took a long time to do. Let me know if I missed any exercises. I thought I was being quite frugal in the exercises I was choosing, but clearly not. I think it's a good mix of skills. Let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree, and I will see you for the next tier list.